A mysterious envelope sealed in red wax has shattered royal silence. Princess Anne, known for her composure, broke down in tears after opening a confidential DNA report confirming the existence of Princess Diana's secret child. No rumors this time, just hard science and undeniable truth. For nearly 40 years, this royal heir lived in the shadows, erased by design. But now, with Anne as the unexpected whistleblower, the monarchy faces a revelation it can no longer bury perurim. The envelope that shattered the silence. On a rainy Monday morning, precisely at 7:48 a.m., a single envelope arrived at Gatcombe Park, addressed in delicate cursive. Unlike most royal correspondence, it bore no royal crest, no diplomatic courier mark, and whose secretary's initials. What caught Princess Anne's attention wasn't just the deep red wax seal, but the unfamiliar foreign crest stamped into it. A symbol she couldn't immediately place. She opened it alone. No aids, no security, just instinct. What lay inside would rewrite nearly 40 years of monarchy. The envelope contained one page, no letterhead, no introduction, just a cold, clinical DNA report from a private laboratory based in Geneva, Switzerland. Her eyes scanned the rows of data until they landed on the most damning sentence. Maternal match confirmed. Subject A, Diana Spencer. No qualifiers. No possible. No inconclusive. The implication was instant. Diana, the Princess of Wales, had a biological child not accounted for in royal history. Anne read the sentence 3 times before realizing she was holding a secret buried for decades. The report included no surname, only a code name and country of origin. The male subject had no documented ties to Prince William or Prince Harry. This wasn't a bastard rumor or recycled tabloid fodder. It was science. Numbers, matching alleles, genetic codes lining up with terrifying clarity. The name Diana Spencer was typed with brutal finality beside markers of mitochondrial DNA. For Princess Anne, this wasn't hearsay. It was the truth, undeniable, unignorable, and catastrophic in its consequence. For years, Anne had dismissed whispers about a secret heir. She remembered the 1990s tabloid frenzy and chalked it up to grief, gossip, or attention-seeking. But this was data from 2025, signed and certified. Anne sat down. She didn't cry. She didn't call anyone. She simply placed the paper flat on her desk and stared. Somewhere out there, a person existed. Diana's firstborn, hidden, erased, yet living proof that the monarchy's version of history was incomplete. As the shock settled, memories began to unearth themselves. Anne's mind drifted back to long-forgotten conversations with Diana. Words once dismissed now screamed with hidden meaning. What if Diana had tried to tell her all along? In the faint glow of a desk lamp, Anne opened an old journal from 1995. The puzzle was no longer hypothetical. The pieces were real. The time for denial was over. And the next step was to understand just how deep Diana's warnings ran. Diana's cryptic warnings revisited. Back in 1995, just months before the world-shattering Panorama interview, Diana and Anne had shared a quiet evening at Highgrove House after a public charity dinner. The fireplace crackled. Diana clutched a glass of wine and stared at the flames, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's a truth I can't say aloud." At the time, Anne had assumed she meant Camilla or her troubled marriage to Charles. But in light of the DNA report, those words felt different. deliberate. Anne retrieved Diana's journals from the family archives. One in particular, dated October 12, 1994, contained a passage Anne had once dismissed as poetic grief. It read, "The machine knows. They erase what they fear. I left behind more than love." Back then, she thought it referred to Charles's betrayal, or perhaps the royal institution's coldness. But now, those lines read like code, planted warnings. Diana hadn't been unstable. She had been careful, paranoid maybe, but with cause. Anne recalled a peculiar visit to Althorpe Estate in 1998, the summer after Diana's death. In Diana's old study, she'd stumbled upon a file labeled only "Child." She'd never opened it. Too private, she had thought. She now cursed that decision. What had Diana tried to preserve? And more importantly, why Anne? Why entrust breadcrumbs to the one royal least likely to chase scandal? Perhaps because Diana knew Anne wouldn't seek fame, only truth. She was the safest pair of hands. Suddenly, it all aligned. The cryptic diary lines, the silent file folder, the strange gaps in Diana's public itinerary in 1984. The night of the charity gala. The rumors of her sudden disappearance under the guise of spiritual retreat. Anne looked back at the DNA report, her heart pounding. This wasn't accidental. Diana had planted a trail, knowing the monarchy would bury the rest. And now, someone, Diana's own blood, had dared to unearth it. Anne didn't sleep that night. At 5:12 a.m., she summoned her most trusted aide with a single line. "Find him. No record. No trace." This wasn't palace business. It was personal, moral. The hunt was on, not for gossip, but for identity. A legacy had been hidden, erased with surgical precision. Now Anne would dig through shadows, stitch timelines, and awaken ghosts. What she'd find next would lead her far beyond London, and deep into a conspiracy older than James's very name. Digging through shadows. The first call went out at 6:35 a.m., encrypted through private lines. Anne's aide, Sir Malcolm Travers, loyal for over 30 years, received the DNA report in a sealed envelope. No words exchanged, just a nod. He understood the weight immediately. Their task was clear: trace the unknown heir off the record. Within hours, they were deep in classified archives, pulling files not touched since 1984. Names redacted, records missing. But every erasure left fingerprints. They found a pattern buried in Diana's official engagements that year. 2 unaccounted trips to Geneva, Switzerland, officially described as wellness retreats. No media coverage, no security logs. But they matched with flight manifests from a royal airfield and logs from a maternity clinic known for high confidentiality births. In one forgotten ledger dated July 2nd, 1984, a birth was listed. No surname, male, initials JMR. The attending physician, Dr. Alistair Hawke, a former royal medical consultant who vanished months later. Digging deeper, Malcolm traced a retired midwife to a village outside Marseille. She had worked at the clinic during Diana's mysterious stay. When shown Diana's photo, her hands trembled. "She cried silently," she said. She kissed the baby's forehead and said, "You are my secret." No name was ever given, no photo, just a woman in sorrow and a child whisked away into obscurity. Anne and Malcolm now knew beyond doubt Diana had delivered a child outside the royal system, and someone powerful had ensured he disappeared. The final clue came in a private courier ledger linking a trust account in Liechtenstein to monthly payments made to an address in rural southern France. The recipient, James R., no surname, age matched, timeline aligned. Anne stared at the dossier spread across her study floor. There was no longer a question. Diana's son had survived. He lived not far, under a name the monarchy gave him, with truths it buried. But that silence was about to break. Anne knew she couldn't move forward without confronting the architect of this cover-up. Only one man had the power and proximity in 1984 to orchestrate such a vanishing act: Prince Charles. With trembling hands and the DNA proof in her coat, Anne headed for Clarence House. What she discovered there would chill her more than the report itself. Because not only did Charles know about the child, he had helped erase him. The secret pact. She didn't call ahead. At exactly 2:15 p.m., Princess Anne arrived at Clarence House, DNA report in hand, eyes set with purpose. The guards let her through without question. Prince Charles, now king for over 2 years, was already waiting. No aides, no advisors, just silence. When Anne placed the sealed envelope on his desk, she said nothing. Her glare was enough. Charles looked down at the red wax seal, exhaled deeply, and said 2 words. "I knew." His tone wasn't surprised or defensive, just resigned. Then came the explanation. Charles confessed that in late 1984, shortly after Diana's secret birth, a meeting took place between himself, the Queen Mother, and 2 senior cabinet officials. They decided that the child, conceived under unusual emotional circumstances, would pose a danger to the monarchy's line of succession. A private agreement was struck. No records, no name, no future. Charles said, "We buried the truth to protect William and the crown." Anne stood motionless. Her voice cracked only once. "You let her carry this alone." Charles claimed Diana agreed to the erasure, but Anne didn't believe it. She remembered Diana's tearful expressions in 1995, her growing isolation, her cryptic warnings in journals. Charles explained that loyal aides were reassigned abroad. The physician involved resigned under duress, and the birth certificate was sealed under royal directive. "We did what we had to do," he said. "It was survival, not cruelty." But Anne wasn't moved. She saw in Charles not a protector of legacy, but a man hardened by fear. His calm made it worse. No guilt, just fatigue. A monarch weighed down not by conscience, but consequence. She walked out without another word. Outside the palace gates, Anne finally understood the full scale of betrayal, not just to Diana, but to truth itself. This wasn't a royal secret. It was a coordinated erasure of bloodline, and Charles had led it. Anne could have stopped there. The truth was sickening enough. But something told her this went deeper, because Charles had never acted alone. There was another figure who had always benefited from Diana's absence, a figure whose influence within the palace had only grown over the last 17 years. Anne turned her attention to Camilla, the queen consort. What she uncovered next would paint an even darker portrait of quiet control and royal manipulation. Camilla's silent reign of power. Anne arrived unannounced at Clarence House the next morning, the time 9:22 a.m. No entourage, no press, just Anne, storm-eyed and guarded. Camilla, however, was waiting, poised with a porcelain teacup and an unnervingly calm smile. "Come to ask about him?" she said, before Anne even opened her mouth. That one sentence shattered Anne's final illusion. Camilla hadn't just known, she had used the knowledge like a dagger kept sheathed. waiting for the perfect time. Camilla admitted she had heard whispers. She intercepted late-night calls, monitored Diana's movements in 1984, and overheard aides too careless in their secrecy. She never exposed the truth, but she never stopped using it. "It gave me leverage," she said, voice flat. "You don't need to swing the sword when everyone knows you're holding it." Camilla had used Diana's secret as a silent threat, a tool to control narratives and kneecap opposition within the firm for over 20 years. Anne recoiled. "He's not a pawn," she hissed. Camilla tilted her head. "Isn't he? You didn't even know he existed." Then Camilla delivered the final blow. "He's already in play. Closer than you think." The words sent a chill down Anne's spine. She hadn't considered this possibility. Diana's son, already active within the royal orbit, unrecognized. Was he in charity circles? Military? Working within the firm itself? If so, Camilla had been watching him like a spider guards her web. Anne left shaken, but not defeated. What had once been conspiracy was now reality, and Camilla's calculated silence was more dangerous than Charles's cowardice. The monarchy hadn't just covered up a birth. They'd weaponized it. Anne knew she had only one course left. Find him. Speak to him. Not as a royal, not as a political chess piece, but as Diana's child, and the person whose existence would force the monarchy to confront its deepest shame. The trail was faint, but not cold. Anne returned to Gatcombe Park with the DNA report, Camilla's warning, and renewed resolve. Using personal contacts across France, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, she and her aide Malcolm began to trace Diana's son's shadowy existence. There was no name, no official record, but there were patterns, cities, years, payments. Somewhere out there, the missing piece of Diana's legacy lived in silence. Anne was going to find him, and finally, face the truth. Tracing the living legacy. The investigation began with a timeline. Anne and Malcolm created a master chart of Diana's movements from 1983 to 1986, comparing it with flight logs, royal diaries, and private clinic visitations. One destination kept recurring: Geneva. Cross-referencing those logs with anonymous maternity records uncovered a match. A single male birth registered under JMR in July 1984. The date coincided with Diana's spiritual retreat, confirmed by archived photographs and unused travel vouchers from RAF Northolt. Next came the financial link. A series of payments from a Liechtenstein trust, established in 1985, were traced to a private residence in the south of France. The recipient? A man in his late 30s named James R. No surname, no tax record, no public history. Anne's team obtained discreet surveillance photos. The resemblance to Diana was stunning. High cheekbones, wide-set blue eyes, and that unmistakable Spencer nose. It wasn't speculation anymore. It was proof. Living, breathing, undeniable. Then came the letters. A cache of private notes from Diana to an old confidant in Tuscany surfaced. One read, "He is my light, but he must stay in shadow." Another, "He carries my name in his soul, even if not on his papers." Anne clutched the pages as tears welled in her eyes. These were more than breadcrumbs. They were confessions, preserved through time for someone brave enough to piece them together. Diana's love, fear, and strength were all inked into each word. Anne now knew what she had to do. She had to meet him, arrange a face-to-face somewhere quiet, outside palace reach. A chapel in Vienna, once visited by Diana during solo charity work, was chosen. The invitation was sent under a false name. Would he come? Would he believe her? The monarchy had spent nearly 40 years burying him. But Diana's son, James, was about to step into the light. Anne sat alone in the candlelit chapel, heart pounding, palms cold. The clock struck 3 p.m. and the doors opened. What she saw would stay with her forever. Diana's son wasn't just real. He was aware, articulate, and burning with a need for truth. In the next moment, the crown's hidden shame would speak its first words, and everything Anne thought she knew about royalty, blood, and duty would be transformed forever. The hidden heir's voice. The air in the chapel was still. The candles flickered, and Princess Anne sat alone in the pew. It was 3:04 p.m., and for a moment, she thought he wouldn't come. But then the old doors creaked open, and in walked a man in his late 30s, tall, calm, with piercing blue eyes and the unmistakable profile of a Spencer. Anne stood, her breath caught. This wasn't a stranger. This was Diana's son, and he looked exactly like her. He introduced himself as James, the name he'd lived under since his childhood in the south of France. His voice was composed, but not cold. "I knew you'd come," he said. He explained how he discovered fragments of the truth at age 17, after finding letters signed only M, not mother or mum, but the one initial Diana used for safety. The letters had been hidden in a locked drawer in the house where he was raised, along with one blurred photo. Diana, pregnant and glowing. James described his life, isolated yet strangely protected. He had no official schooling past age 14, only tutors, silent guardians, and rules that never made sense until now. He watched William and Harry grow up on TV, knowing deep down he belonged to the same story. They wore crowns. "I wore a shadow," he said, "but I never felt abandoned. I felt hidden, deliberately." He had no anger, just longing, a desire to set the truth free, for her. Anne wept, not as a royal, but as a woman holding her sister-in-law's lost legacy. "She trusted you," James said. "She wrote about it, that one day you'd find me." In that moment, everything changed. This wasn't scandal. This was a reunion. Anne promised James, "Your story will be told. I swear it." It wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about giving Diana's son the place in history she had always meant for him to have. Anne left Vienna with James's final words etched into her memory. "I don't want a title. I just want her name back." Back in London, she knew what had to be done. Secrets couldn't stay buried under protocol any longer. The time had come to tell the world that Diana had never truly left them. Her truth had lived in silence for nearly 4 decades. Now it would be spoken, on record, in public, for everyone to hear. The press conference that shook the world. On the morning of March 14, 2025, a surprise press briefing was announced at Marlborough House. The media expected a routine statement about Veterans Affairs. Instead, they arrived to find Princess Anne, dressed in gray, standing alone behind a podium. There were no palace officials, no royal backdrop, no security detail. Just her, and beside her, James. When she opened the leather-bound folder in front of her, the room fell silent. Cameras clicked. History was about to shift. "I am here to confirm," Anne began, "that a verified DNA report proves this man is the biological child of the late Princess Diana Spencer." Journalists gasped. Some froze mid-note. Anne continued, unwavering. He was hidden by those sworn to protect him. The Crown knew. Records were sealed, identities erased. But the truth survived. She didn't flinch. No hedging, no denial, just fact. Flashbulbs exploded as the world watched a secret 39 years buried rise into the light. Then James stepped forward. "She was my mother," he said softly. "I never heard her voice, but I've lived inside her silence my whole life. He didn't demand a throne. I don't want power. I want her truth. I want the world to know she didn't abandon me. She protected me." His composure stunned everyone. The room, packed with reporters from London, New York, Sydney, and Cape Town, fell into a rare, reverent silence. The story wasn't about politics anymore. It was about love, loss, and justice. The fallout was instant. Social media exploded. Hashtag Royal Truth, hashtag Diana's Son, and hashtag Princess Anne trended worldwide. Live broadcasts cut across BBC, CNN, France 24, and Sky News. Palace phone lines jammed. Clarence House gave no comment. Buckingham Palace went dark. Legal advisors convened. Parliament requested emergency briefings. But none of that could stop the wave. Anne had done the unthinkable, told the truth. And now, the monarchy would have to face the consequences, or crumble beneath them. But the press conference wasn't the end. It was the ignition. As the dust began to settle, global attention shifted to Camilla, Charles, and the deeper question: if this truth had been buried, what else had been hidden? Inside the palace walls, divisions sharpened. Outside, the people demanded answers. One woman had changed the game. But what came next would decide whether the monarchy survived or became history itself. The monarchy unravels. In the 72 hours after the press conference, the royal institution spun into chaos. Clarence House issued a one-line statement. No comment at this time. Buckingham Palace phones went unanswered. In Westminster, 8 MPs called for a full review of the Royal Succession Act of 2013. Legal scholars debated, could a previously unacknowledged heir affect the line? Theoretically, yes. Practically, it depended. But constitution or not, public perception was shifting. And fast. Camilla's silence was deafening. Once the palace's steadiest manipulator, she was now under siege. Tabloids pulled out old interviews, public speeches, and timelines. Her involvement in Diana's life, and now, potentially, her erasure, faced renewed fury. Editorials in The Times, The Guardian, and Le Monde demanded accountability. Public favor tilted hard toward Anne and James. Polls showed 68% of Britons believed James should be officially acknowledged, even without a title. The Crown had lost control of the narrative. Inside, Charles was said to be devastated but immobilized. Aides reported that he hadn't left his private quarters in 3 days. William remained silent, but his inner circle hinted he was struggling with the fallout. Harry, in Los Angeles, released a brief message supporting James and praising Anne's courage. But the core of the family, fractured and bitter, had no plan. What had been hidden for 39 years now threatened to rewrite centuries of royal legacy. And yet, in the eye of the storm, Anne remained still. She issued no follow-up. She granted no interviews. She simply returned to Gatcombe Park, declining all royal functions. Her message had been sent. It was up to the firm to decide whether they'd meet the truth or flee it. But one fact remained. Diana's son was real, and the world now knew. The monarchy had played a long game of silence, and silence had finally lost. But what would James do now? With the entire world at his feet and the British monarchy reeling, the man at the center of the storm disappeared. No interviews, no memoir, just one quiet farewell letter to Anne. What he left behind wasn't ambition, it was a legacy reclaimed, and a question that still echoes across palaces, parliaments, and people's hearts. What does the monarchy become when its greatest truth comes from its deepest lie? The end or the beginning? James vanished. No press sightings, no TV appearances, no interviews. He left London within 24 hours of the press conference. A single note remained, left at Gatcombe Park, addressed to Anne. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing her." The monarchy, shaken and scrambling, began its quiet damage control. But the genie was out. Diana's story wasn't just reopened, it was redefined. And with it, the institution she once married into was forced to face its reflection. Public confidence in the crown dropped to its lowest since 1997, the year Diana died. In Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, republic discussions reignited. In the UK, younger generations flooded forums, podcasts, and street protests demanding royal reform. The House of Lords debated emergency transparency legislation involving Crown archives. The firm tried to pivot, offering increased visibility for William and Catherine. But it wasn't enough. People didn't want distraction. They wanted truth, accountability, and justice. Anne remained a national icon. Dubbed the conscience of the crown by the Telegraph, she became the embodiment of duty without denial. Statues of Diana were revisited, memorials updated. A new portrait of Diana and her 3 children went viral. James in the background, no crown, no title, just presence. The people had made their choice. Truth mattered more than protocol. And for once, the monarchy had to follow, not lead. The future remains uncertain. James is gone, for now. But his story, Diana's legacy, and Anne's courage have changed the royal bloodline forever. What began as a sealed envelope has become a historical reckoning. Whether the monarchy bends or breaks is yet to be seen. But one thing is clear. Truth has returned to the throne, and the world will never see the crown the same way again. The palace may remain silent, but the truth now echoes louder than any royal decree. Diana's secret child is no longer myth. It's reality. As Princess Anne steps out of the shadows with proof in hand, the royal family's most carefully hidden legacy threatens to rewrite history. One DNA test, one hidden son, one unbreakable truth. The world now waits, not for permission, but for answers. And in this new chapter, silence is no longer an option.